but not in the way the Council feared. Humans were dangerous to impossibility. Dangerous to given the Coalition High Council chamber was a massive sphere, where representatives from 300 species gathered to decide the future of the galaxy. Today they were deciding the future of humanity. Councillor Draven spoke first. He was a being of pure energy, contained within a crystalline matrix. His voice resonated through the chamber like electricity. The human rescue was impressive, Draven admitted. But it proves my point. Deathworlders are too capable, too strong, too dangerous. We should restrict their military access before they become a threat. Murmurs of agreement rippled through some sections of the chamber. Ambassador Yuna stood calmly at the human delegation podium. Director Sora stood beside her, representing Earth's government. Behind them in the observation section sat all the human cadets, including a newly arrived 6th cadet named Doyen, the youngest at only 19 years old but already showing remarkable tactical abilities. "Counselors," Yuna said, her voice carrying clearly, "you fear what you do not understand. I propose a solution. Send a delegation to Earth, see our world. Meet our people. Understand what made us." The chamber erupted in shocked conversation. Visit a Class 9.8 death world? Impossible. Suicidal. The mortality rate, one counselor protested, is 97% for non-native species. With proper precautions, Sora interjected, we can ensure safety. We will provide environment suits, medical support, constant monitoring, but you need to see Earth to understand humans. Admiral Thex rose from his seat. His support carried weight. I endorse this proposal. If we are to judge humanity, we should do so with knowledge, not fear. The vote was close, but curiosity won over caution. A delegation would visit Earth, 12 members representing different species and political factions. Commander Velrax volunteered immediately. Hana convinced her government to let her join. Professor Drawl was an obvious choice for the scientific perspective. 2 weeks later, they stood on the bridge of a coalition ship approaching Earth. Through the viewports, the planet looked beautiful. Blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown land masses. It looks peaceful, Hana observed. Wait, Jiho said quietly. The ship entered orbit, and suddenly the displays lit up with warnings. Gravity at 1.0 standard. Atmospheric oxygen at 21%. Active weather systems detected across 70% of the surface. Seismic activity on 4 tectonic plates. Electromagnetic storms in progress. This is peaceful? A small feathered counselor squeaked. For Earth? Yes, Taeyang replied. They landed at Inshan, near Seoul. The moment the delegation stepped off the ship, they felt Earth's gravity like a physical weight. Even with their support suits compensating, it was oppressive. How do you function in this? Velrax gasped. We're born in it, Nari explained. Our bones grow strong under this pressure. Our muscles develop to handle it. By the time we're adults, it's normal. The air was next. Even through their suit filters, the delegates could detect the high oxygen content. It made them feel lightheaded and anxious. Your atmosphere would be classified as a corrosive agent on most worlds, Professor Drawl said, checking his instruments. Yet you breathe it naturally. Our cells are adapted, Suman explained. She had returned to Earth to help with the delegation. What's poison to you is life to us. They traveled to Seoul in a ground transport. The delegates stared in amazement at the city. Millions of humans living in close proximity. Towers reaching into the sky. Vehicles moving in organized chaos. 10 million people, Draven said in disbelief. Living on a death world. How is this possible? This is home, Director Sora replied simply. We build strong because the planet demands it. We plan ahead because disasters happen. We help each other because survival requires community. A sudden rainstorm struck. The delegates watched in horror as water fell from the sky in sheets driven by wind strong enough to knock over a Velrathi. Humans walked through the storm with umbrellas, barely concerned. This is a minor weather event, Hyun explained. A light rain. Sometimes we get typhoons with winds at 200 kilometers per hour. Those we take seriously. 200 kilometers per hour would destroy our cities, a counselor whispered. That evening, they visited Jiho's family home. His parents served traditional Korean food, which the delegates could not eat due to different biology. But they observed human social interaction. The warmth. The laughter. The casual existence on a world that should be killing them. Jiho's younger sister showed them her pet cat. The small feline yawned, displaying sharp teeth and claws. Counselor Draven recoiled. That is a predator. In your home. With your children. She's a pet, Jiho's sister said, confused. She's sweet. Your people domesticated predators, Hana said slowly. You took hunters and made them companions. We domesticated lots of animals, Jiho's mother said. Dogs, horses, cats, even wolves originally. Humans have always preferred cooperation to conflict. The next day they visited a historical museum. The delegates saw evidence of human history. The wars, the conflicts, the near extinctions from disease and famine, but also the art, the music, the literature, the constant drive to build, explore, and understand. You fought each other for thousands of years, Velrax observed, looking at displays of ancient weapons. We did, Yuna agreed, and we nearly destroyed ourselves. But we learned we had to. The planet was already trying to kill us. We couldn't afford to kill each other, too. Do-Yun, the youngest cadet, spoke up. Every major advancement in human cooperation came after a disaster. After wars, we built international organizations. After pandemics, we created global health systems. After environmental damage, we learned to protect our world. Pain taught us to work together. They experienced a minor earthquake the third day. The ground shook for 15 seconds. The humans barely reacted, continuing their activities with minor adjustments. The delegates panicked until their host calmed them. That was magnitude 4.2, Sora explained. We feel those a few times a month. We build our structures to handle much worse. Your entire civilization exists under constant threat, Professor Drall said in wonder. No, Taeyang corrected. Our civilization exists because of constant threat. Earth made us strong, made us careful, made us cooperative. It's not a curse. It's who we are. On the fourth day, they flew to a nature preserve. The delegates saw Earth's biodiversity. Thousands of species in a single forest, insects, birds, mammals, reptiles, all competing, all surviving. A deer walked past and several delegates jumped. That's prey, Hana explained to her companions. Not dangerous. Everything on Earth is dangerous, Nari countered. That deer can kick hard enough to break ribs. Those birds have talons that can tear flesh. Those insects can carry diseases. Even the plants can be toxic. But we learned to coexist with all of it. They watched humans jogging on mountain trails, children playing in parks, old people sitting by rivers, all existing casually in an environment that the Coalition would classify as hostile. I understand now, Velrax said quietly. You're not different despite your world being dangerous. You're remarkable because of it. The delegation visited a school where human children learned. The youngsters demonstrated their knowledge, their curiosity, their dreams of exploring space and meeting aliens. They have no fear, a counselor observed. They're from Earth, Jiho replied. Fear is something we learn to manage, not something that controls us. On the final evening, they gathered at the delegation center. Admiral Thex, who had joined the visit, addressed the group. I came here skeptical, he admitted. I saw humans as potential threats, strong, capable, dangerous, and you are all those things. But I was asking the wrong question. He gestured to the window where Sol's lights sparkled against the night. The question is not whether humans are dangerous. It's what they choose to do with their capabilities. And I have seen the answer. They choose to save lives, to build communities, to explore peacefully, to help those weaker than themselves. Counselor Draven, who had been silent for most of the visit, finally spoke. I opposed human integration because I feared what Deathworlders might become. But I see now that Earth already made them into something. Not conquerors, survivors, not destroyers, builders. He turned to Yuna. I withdraw my opposition. Humanity has earned its place in the Coalition. Hana approached Jiho later that night. I want to ask something, she said. Will your people accept me for training? I want to learn what Earth teaches. I want to understand true survival. Jiho smiled. Earth doesn't make you a human. It teaches you to be a survivor. And yes, we'll welcome you. Professor Drall published his findings the next day. His report went viral across the Coalition networks. It explained human physiology, psychology, and sociology in terms that other species could understand. But more importantly, it explained human choice. Humans could have become warriors, the report concluded. Their world gave them every tool for conquest: strength, endurance, intelligence, aggression. But they chose cooperation instead. They chose community. They chose to help rather than dominate. This is not weakness. This is the ultimate victory over their environment. Earth made them strong. Humanity made them good. The delegation returned to the Coalition Council with a unanimous recommendation. Humans should be fully integrated. The emergency alarm woke Jiho at 3 a.m. station time. Red lights flashed in the corridors as he pulled on his uniform and ran toward the briefing room. Taeyang was already there along with Nari, Hyun, and a 5th human cadet named Jiwon, who had arrived last month as a communications specialist. Commander Velrak stood at the central display, his face grim. Border Station 17 has been attacked. Unknown hostiles. The station is crippled. Environmental systems failing. Hull breaches on multiple decks. Gravity generators offline. The display showed the station spinning slowly in space, atmosphere venting from several wounds in its hull. How many survivors? Someone asked. Unknown. Last transmission reported 47 personnel of 14 different species. That was 20 minutes ago. Rescue fleet? Hana asked. She had started joining the humans during briefings, her curiosity overcoming her species' natural caution. 6 hours out, Velrak said. The station has 45 minutes of life support remaining. The room fell silent. 45 minutes. 6 hours. The math was simple and terrible. There is one ship closer, Velrax continued slowly. But it's not Coalition standard. It's human-designed. Captain Minho appeared on the display. He commanded Earth's first Coalition warship, a vessel that had been built to human specifications. He was older than the cadets, with gray at his temples and eyes that had seen combat. My ship can reach the station in 30 minutes, Minho said, but I need personnel for the rescue operation. Coalition regulations require Academy certification for emergency response. My cadets are not ready, Velrax began. With respect, Commander, Minho interrupted. Your cadets will die on that station. The environmental conditions are beyond Coalition survival parameters. Explain, Velrax demanded. Gravity is at 0.3 standard and dropping. Temperature is -100 degrees. Atmosphere is gone in 3 sections. Radiation levels are at yellow alert. Minho's expression was hard. Your people cannot survive these conditions long enough to conduct a rescue. But humans can? Velrax's tone was skeptical. Humans train for vacuum operations. Our suits are designed for extreme conditions, and we have experience working in environments that would kill other species. Minho looked directly at the camera. I need volunteers. Human volunteers, Jiho stood immediately. I'll go. Me too, Taeyang said. One by one, all 5 human cadets volunteered. Velrax looked at them for a long moment. You are cadets, not certified rescue operators. Sir, Jiho said carefully. Would you rather send inexperienced humans who might survive, or experienced Coalition personnel who definitely won't? The logic was brutal but clear. Velrax nodded slowly. Go, all of you, and come back alive. The human ship was different from Coalition vessels, heavier, more armored. Everything built with redundancy that other species considered excessive. Jiho and the others suited up in the cargo bay while Captain Minho briefed them. Standard rescue protocols don't apply here, Minho said. The station is dying. Structure is compromised. We go in fast, find survivors, get out. No heroics. No taking risks. Understood? Yes, sir, they responded in unison. Jiwon would coordinate communications from the ship. The other 4 would enter the station. The ship docked with a shutter. The airlock opened onto darkness and cold. Jiho activated his suit lights and stepped into a nightmare. The corridor was twisted metal and floating debris. The temperature reading on his display showed -105 degrees. Gravity was barely 0.2 standard, making every movement feel floaty and disconnected. This would kill most species in seconds. Nari said over the comm. Then we move fast. Jiho replied. They found the first survivors in what remained of the command center. 3 Velrathi, including a cousin of Hana's, huddled in emergency environment suits that were clearly failing. Their compound eyes were clouded with ice. Can you move? Jiho asked. Cold, one managed to say. Too cold. Taeyang was already checking their suits. Heating elements are dead. Life support at 5%. We carry them, Nari decided. In the low gravity, even the Velrathi's mass was manageable. They distributed the survivors among them and moved deeper into the station. The next section was worse. A hull breach had vented the atmosphere completely. They entered pure vacuum. Jiho's suit compensated automatically, but he could see the stress readings on his companion's displays. They found 7 more survivors in an emergency shelter. Different species, all barely conscious. The shelter's power was gone. No heat, no air. They were minutes from death. How do we move 7 at once? Hyun asked. We make multiple trips, Jiho said. No time. Minho's voice crackled over the comm. Station structural integrity is failing. 30 minutes maximum, Jiho thought fast. Hyun, can you rig a tether system? Connect them all together and we tow them? On it, Hyun replied, already pulling cable from his emergency kit. While Hyun worked, Jiho pushed deeper into the station. He could hear metal groaning around him. The structure was dying, but sensors showed life signs in the lower deck. I'm going down, he announced. Jiho, we don't have time, Nari warned. There are people down there. He dropped through a damaged shaft, using the low gravity to control his descent. The lower deck was a maze of collapsed corridors and sparking electronics. And in the center, trapped under a fallen beam, was a large crystalline being. Professor Dral. Cadet Jiho? Dral's voice was weak. What are you doing here? Rescuing you, Professor. Jiho grabbed the beam and pulled. In normal gravity, it would have been impossible. Even in 0.2 gravity, it was difficult. But Jiho had trained in 1.0 gravity his entire life. He had strength that most species lacked. The beam shifted. Dral crawled free, his crystalline body cracked but intact. Can you move? Jiho asked. I believe so. Slowly. We don't have time for slowly. Jiho lifted the professor, surprised at how light he felt in the low gravity. Hold on. He climbed back up the shaft one-handed. Dral clutched against his chest. His suit's strain warnings were blaring, but he ignored them. When he reached the others, they had all the survivors tethered together. Hyun and Taeyang pulled the line of survivors while Nari cleared the path ahead. Jiho joined them, still carrying Dral. The station shuddered. Metal screamed. Something exploded in a nearby section. Move. Minho's voice was urgent. Station is breaking up. They reached the airlock just as a massive structural collapse began behind them, the door sealed with seconds to spare. Through the porthole, Jiho watched the station tear itself apart. Inside the ship, medical teams descended on the survivors, 47 beings from 14 species, all alive, all saved. Admiral Thex arrived 6 hours later with the rescue fleet. He was an imposing avian being with sharp eyes and sharper intelligence. He had commanded coalition forces for 3 centuries. He toured the human ship, examined the survivors, and reviewed the rescue footage. When he met with Captain Minho and the cadets, his expression was unreadable. I have seen 300 years of service, Admiral Thex said slowly. I have witnessed first contacts, wars, disasters, and miracles. But I have never seen anything like this. Sir? Jiho asked. You operated in conditions that would have killed any other coalition species. 0.2 gravity, minus 100 degrees, hard vacuum, radiation exposure. And you did it without hesitation. Thex's eyes moved from one human to another. Captain Minho, your ship arrived in 30 minutes and extracted all survivors in 23. My fleet with our best equipment would have taken 90 minutes minimum, by which time everyone would have been dead. We did what needed to be done, Minho said simply. No, Thex corrected. You did what we thought was impossible. The Admiral turned to Jiho. Cadet, I reviewed your suit logs. You held a support beam that weighed 300 kilograms in your base gravity. You climbed a vertical shaft one-handed while carrying Professor Dral. You worked in your suit for 23 minutes straight without rest. The adrenaline helped, Jiho admitted. The adrenaline, Thex repeated. Other species would have collapsed. You performed rescue operations. He shook his head slowly. The Council debates whether humans are dangerous. They asked the wrong question. What's the right question? Nari asked. Not whether you are dangerous, Thex said, but whether the galaxy can afford not to have you. The news spread across the coalition faster than light communication. Humans had performed an impossible rescue. Deathworlders had saved Paradise Worlders from death. Public opinion began to shift. The humans were no longer just strange curiosities or potential threats. They were heroes. Hana visited Jiho in the medical bay where he was being treated for minor radiation exposure. My cousin is alive because of you, she said quietly. My entire family is grateful. We just did what anyone would do, Jiho replied. No, Hana said firmly. Most species would have fled, or tried and failed. Only humans would have succeeded. Professor Drall, his crystalline body already healing, sent a message to all the human cadets. You saved my life in conditions that would have killed me in minutes. I understand now what Ambassador Yuna meant. You do not survive despite your world being dangerous. You survive because of it. Earth made you into something remarkable, not weapons. Heroes. That night, lying in his bunk, Jiho thought about what Admiral Thex had said. The galaxy questioning whether humans were dangerous. Maybe they were dangerous. Professor Drall was a being of living crystal, his body reflecting light in patterns that changed with his thoughts. He had been studying xenobiology for 3 centuries, but he had never encountered anything like humans. Please, he said to Jiho, his voice sounding like wind chimes. I only ask for basic scans. Nothing invasive. The scientific community is desperate to understand your species. Jiho sat in the medical lab with Taiyang, Nari, and a new arrival named Hyun. The 4th human at the academy was an engineering cadet, younger than the others with quick eyes and quicker hands. What exactly do you want to know? Jiho asked. Everything, Drall admitted. Your physiology is unlike anything in our databases. Medical Officer Suman has been helpful, but I need to see for myself. Dr. Suman entered the lab, carrying several data tablets. I told him he wouldn't believe the results, she said in Korean, then switched to standard. But he insisted. The scans took 3 hours. When Professor Drall reviewed the data, his crystalline form flickered with what the humans had learned was confusion. This cannot be correct, he said, running the scans again. Your skeletal structure. The density is 3 times galactic average. Your bones should be too heavy to move efficiently. But they're not, Hyun pointed out, because our muscles are also stronger to compensate. Drall moved to the next readout. Your muscle fiber composition. The efficiency is unprecedented, and you have redundant systems. 2 kidneys. 2 lungs. Some species have backups for critical organs, but humans have backups for their backups. Evolution, Suman explained. On Earth, if one organ failed, you died. So we developed redundancy. Your healing rate is extraordinary, Drall continued. Bones that would take other species months to heal take you weeks. Wounds close in days. Your immune system is so aggressive that it attacks infections before they can establish. Taeyang leaned back in the examination chair. Is all this unusual? Unusual? Drall's colors shifted to what might have been laughter. Cadet, in the entire coalition, there are only 12 species with regenerative capabilities even close to yours. None of them are as efficient. The professor pulled up a comparison chart. The average coalition species evolved on a world with 0.6 gravity. Earth has 1.0. This means every movement you make requires more energy. Every step builds more muscle. Every day of your life is resistance training, Nari nodded. That's why the academy feels so light to us. Everything here is designed for weaker species. Weaker is not the term I would use, Drall said carefully. Different. Most species evolved on stable worlds. Worlds where the environment was not trying to kill them. He brought up an image of Earth rotating slowly. Your planet has more active tectonic plates than any other inhabited world. Earthquakes are common. Your atmosphere spawns violent storms with wind speeds that would tear apart structures on most worlds. Your oceans contain creatures that grow to sizes we thought impossible. Blue whales, Jiho said. They're gentle, actually. Gentle, Drall repeated. A creature 100 times your mass is gentle. Only a Deathworlder would say this. Hyun had been quiet, but now he spoke up. Professor, you've studied our bodies. But have you studied our psychology? That is a more difficult area, Drall admitted. Human thought patterns are complex. It's simple, Hyun said. Earth tried to kill us for 3 million years. Every generation faced starvation, disease, predators, disasters. Our brains learned to see threats everywhere, to plan for the worst, to never assume safety. Ambassador Yuna entered the lab at that moment. She was Earth's diplomatic liaison to the coalition, a woman in her 50s with gray hair and sharp eyes. Professor Drall, she greeted. I heard you were studying our people. Ambassador, Drall said respectfully. I hope I have not overstepped. Not at all, Yuna replied. In fact, I came to help you understand, may I? She gestured to the holographic display. Drall nodded and Yuna took control of the presentation. She brought up Earth again, but this time with data overlays. Oxygen concentration 21%, she said. This is considered highly corrosive by coalition standards. Most species breathe oxygen concentrations below 10%. Ours would poison them. She changed the display. Temperature ranges. Earth varies from -90 degrees in winter poles to +60 degrees in summer deserts. Most coalition homeworlds vary by less than 20 degrees total. Another shift. Biodiversity. Earth has approximately 8 million species. The average coalition world has less than 1 million, and of Earth's species, nearly 20% are predators. The cadets in the room were silent. They had never seen the data presented like this. Our evolutionary history, Una continued, is written in our DNA. We have genes for surviving ice ages, genes for resisting diseases that killed billions, genes for healing from injuries that would be fatal to other species. But there is more, she said, her voice becoming softer. We also have genes for cooperation, for empathy, for sacrifice, because on a death world, the only way to survive is together. Drawl's crystalline form pulsed thoughtfully. You said Earth tried to kill your species, but you also fought each other, did you not? The historical records show countless wars. We did, Una admitted, and we almost destroyed ourselves because of it. But we learned we had to, because the planet was already trying to kill us. We couldn't afford to kill each other too. She pulled up images of Earth cities, Seoul, Tokyo, New York, London. Millions of humans living in close proximity, on a world that could unleash earthquakes, tsunamis, and hurricanes at any moment. We built on fault lines, Una said. We built in flood zones. We built where volcanoes could erupt. Why? Because there is no safe place on Earth. So we learned to build strong, to plan ahead, to help each other when disaster struck. Professor Drawl studied the images carefully. I am beginning to understand. You are not dangerous because you evolved to fight. You are resilient because you evolved to survive. Exactly, Una said. Hyun raised his hand. Professor, can I show you something? At Drawl's nod, Hyun pulled up his engineering projects. This is a standard coalition emergency shelter, he said, displaying the blueprints. Designed to protect against Class 3 hazards. Notice the single hull, the basic power system, the assumption that rescue will arrive quickly. He pulled up another design. This is a human emergency shelter. Double hull with ablative armor. Redundant power systems. Life support for 6 months. Assumes no rescue is coming and you're on your own. Over-engineering, Drawl observed. We call it survival engineering, Hyun corrected. On Earth, if something can go wrong, it will. So we plan for it. Nari added. That's why human ships have more emergency systems than coalition vessels. More escape pods, more backup generators. Other species think we're paranoid. We just think we're prepared, Taeyang finished. The discussion continued for hours. Professor Drawl asked hundreds of questions and slowly a picture emerged. Humans had denser bones because Earth's gravity demanded it. They had efficient muscles because moving on Earth required power. They had aggressive immune systems because Earth was full of diseases. They healed quickly because injuries were common. They saw threats everywhere because on Earth, threats were everywhere. But they also cooperated because cooperation was survival. They helped strangers because on a death world you never knew when you would need help. They built communities because alone you would die. There is something that troubles the Council, Drawl finally said. Your species achieved faster than light travel without outside help. You developed it independently. This suggests intelligence, creativity, and determination, but it also suggests potential for danger. Every species is potentially dangerous, Una replied. The question is, what do they choose to do with their capabilities? And what does humanity choose? Drawl asked. We choose to survive, Una said simply, and we prefer to survive together, with others, even aliens we just met. That evening, the Academy Council convened an emergency session. Professor Drawl presented his findings. The data shocked many council members. These humans are essentially living weapons, one counselor argued, designed by their planet to endure and overcome. Or they are survivors, another countered, designed by hardship to persist and adapt. The debate raged for hours. Should humans be restricted? Should their access to coalition technology be limited? Should Earth be quarantined? Commander Velrax, who had been silent, finally spoke. I have observed the human cadets for 4 months now. They are stronger than us, yes, faster, more resilient. But they are also curious, helpful. When other cadets struggle, the humans assist. When emergencies occur, they respond first. They do not dominate. They cooperate. That could be an act, a suspicious counselor suggested. For 4 months? Velrax shook his head. No one is that good an actor. I believe humans are what they claim to be. Survivors who want to be part of something larger. The vote was close, but the decision was made. Humans would remain in the academy. Their status would continue to be evaluated, but they would be given a chance. When Jiho heard the news, he felt relief wash over him. They had not been rejected. Not yet, but he also understood. Humanity was on trial. Every human action would be judged. Every mistake would be magnified. The galaxy was watching, and one wrong move could end Earth's dream of joining the stars. No pressure at all. Jiho sat at the back of the lecture hall, his eyes moving across the rows of seats filled with aliens. 200 cadets from 47 different species occupied the massive room. Some had scales, others had feathers, and a few seemed to be made of something that looked like living crystal. They all wore the same dark blue uniform of the Galactic Naval Academy, but Jiho was the only one who looked human. He had been at the academy for 3 months now. 3 months of stares. 3 months of whispers. 3 months of being the strange one. Commander Velrax entered the room, his amphibious skin glistening under the lights. He was a Krillian, a species that evolved in the deep oceans of their homeworld. His large eyes swept across the class as he activated the holographic display. Today we discuss the classification system, Velrax announced, his voice carrying a wet, gurgling quality. The Coalition has explored 17,000 worlds. We have categorized each one based on their danger level. The hologram showed a spectrum of colors from gentle blue to angry red. Class 1 worlds are paradise, stable weather, calm geology, peaceful ecosystems. Class 10 worlds are Deathworlds. Nothing survives there. Velrax's eyes narrowed. No cadet will ever be authorized to visit anything above Class 7. The risk is too great. Jiho shifted in his seat. He noticed Hana, a Velrathi cadet with compound eyes and graceful insectoid features, glancing back at him. She was top of the class and had shown curiosity about him since his arrival. Let me show you examples, Velrax continued. The hologram changed to show a beautiful world with purple skies. Velratha Prime Class 2. Gravity is 0.6 standard. Temperature varies only 5 degrees across the entire year. No major predators. No diseases. This is where most civilized species evolved. More worlds appeared. Class 3. Class 4. Each one seemed more dangerous than the last, but still the instructor spoke of them with a certain comfort. Then the display changed to Class 9. These are forbidden, Velrax said, his tone becoming serious. Death worlds where the environment itself is hostile. Gravity above 0.9 standard. Atmospheric oxygen above 15%. Frequent natural disasters. Apex predators in every ecosystem. A list of worlds appeared. Jiho recognized none of them except one, Earth. Classification, 9.8. The lecture hall filled with gasps and nervous chittering. Several species made gestures that Jiho had learned were signs of fear or disgust. This is Earth, Velrax said. And now Jiho felt every eye in the room turn toward him. Homeworld of the humans. It is one of the most hostile environments in known space. Gravity of 1.0 standard, which would crush most species within hours. Oxygen concentration of 21%, which is corrosive to 70% of coalition members. Weather patterns that include rotating windstorms, electrical atmospheric discharge, and seismic activity. The hologram zoomed in to show Earth's surface. Jiho saw mountains, oceans, forests. It looked beautiful to him, but the aliens around him recoiled. The predator-to-prey ratio on Earth is the highest we have ever recorded, Velrax continued. Humans evolved alongside creatures that could kill them in seconds. Microscopic organisms on Earth are so aggressive that visiting species require constant medical intervention to survive. The mortality rate for non-native species is 97% within the first standard cycle. Jiho felt a small smile pull at his lips. He couldn't help it, Velrax noticed. Cadet Jiho, you find this amusing? The room went silent. 200 pairs of alien eyes focused on the human. Jiho stood, keeping his voice calm. No, sir. It's just that we call it home. Home, Velrax repeated as if the word was strange. Yes, and that is why humanity is being carefully evaluated. Deathworld species have never been integrated into the coalition before. Another cadet raised a crystalline appendage. Sir, why are they here if their world is so dangerous? Because humanity achieved faster than light travel on their own, Velrax answered. And coalition law states that any species capable of independent FTL development must be offered membership. He looked at Jiho. Though, many on the council wonder if that law was wise in this case. Jiho sat down, feeling the weight of prejudice in those words. The lecture continued, but the mood had changed. Cadets whispered to each other, occasionally glancing at Jiho. He had grown used to it, but that didn't make it easier. After class, Hana approached him in the corridor. "Is it true?" she asked, her translator device rendering her clicking speech into coalition standard. "About Earth? Depends on what you heard," Jiho replied. "They say your world tried to kill your species for millions of years. That you only survived through luck." Jiho shook his head. "Not luck. Adaptation, learning, working together." "But the gravity alone would break my exoskeleton," Hana said, genuine curiosity in her multifaceted eyes. "How do you function?" "It's normal for us," Jiho explained. "This station?" He gestured around them. "The Academy maintained 0.7 gravity, comfortable for most species. This feels light to me, like I might float away." Hana's antennae twitched in what Jiho had learned was surprise. "And you don't use the gravity adjustment field?" "Don't need it." "Fascinating," she murmured. A few days later, Jiho returned to his quarters to find he had a new roommate. Another human stood in the room unpacking a bag. He was tall with an easy smile. "You must be Jiho," the newcomer said in Korean, then switched to standard. "I'm Taeyang. Looks like I'm the second human stupid enough to join this place." Jiho felt something release in his chest. Another human. Someone who understood. "Welcome to the freak show," Jiho replied with a grin. "I heard about the Deathworld lecture," Taeyang said, sitting on his bunk. "How'd they take it?" "About like you'd expect. Half of them think we're ticking time bombs. The other half thinks we're interesting research subjects." "Well," Taeyang said, "at least we're not boring." Over the next few weeks, Jiho and Taeyang became subjects of intense scrutiny. Other cadets watched them during physical training, during meals, during every class. The humans didn't do anything special, which somehow made them more fascinating. In combat training, they moved differently than others. Their reflexes were faster. Their endurance was longer. What exhausted other species barely winded them. During a zero-gravity drill, Jiho noticed other cadets struggling with disorientation. Their species had evolved on stable worlds. Sudden changes in gravity confused their senses, but humans adapted within seconds, their inner ears compensating automatically. "It's because our world never stopped trying to knock us down," Taeyang explained to a curious group of cadets one evening. "Earthquakes, storms, flash floods. Our bodies learn to handle sudden changes." "That sounds terrifying," a small feathered alien said. "It was normal," Jiho replied simply. Commander Velrax observed the two humans carefully. One afternoon he called Jiho to his office. "Cadet Jiho," Velrax said, his large eyes unblinking. "I want you to understand something. The Coalition is peaceful because most species evolved on gentle worlds. We have no context for violence, for struggle, for survival. That is why many fear your kind." "We're not violent," Jiho said firmly. "Perhaps not by choice," Velrax agreed. "But your world made you into something we have never encountered. Survivors, fighters. I have read the reports on human history. The wars, the conflicts, all of that on top of surviving a death world. We learned from our mistakes," Jiho said. "That's why we're here. To be better." Velrax studied him for a long moment. "I hope you are right, Cadet, because the galaxy is watching humanity very carefully. One mistake, and the Council will vote to quarantine your entire species." As Jiho left the office, he felt the weight of those words. He wasn't just a cadet. He was a representative of all humanity. Every action he took, every word he spoke could determine whether Earth joined the stars or remained alone. That night, lying in his bunk, Jiho looked out the viewport at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there was Earth, his dangerous, beautiful, deadly home, and he would prove to the galaxy that Deathworlders could be trusted. The simulation chamber was massive, capable of creating entire environments within its walls. Jiho stood with the other cadets as Commander Velrax explained the annual survival exercise. "This simulation tests everything you have learned," Velrax announced. "You will be dropped into a Class 6 hostile environment. Dangerous fauna, toxic zones, extreme weather. You must survive for 72 hours. A new human had joined the academy just last week. Nari was her name, and she stood with Jiho and Taiyang. She was shorter than both men, but carried herself with the confidence of someone who knew how to handle danger. Jiho had learned she came from a military family on Earth. Most cadets form teams of 4 to 6. Velrax continued. You may use standard survival equipment. Support drones are permitted. Questions? A reptilian cadet named Vorin raised his clawed hand. He had been openly hostile to the humans since their arrival. Sir, will the Deathworlders be given handicaps? It seems unfair to let them compete under normal rules. Velrax's eyes narrowed. Cadet Vorin, all participants follow the same rules. That includes humans. They're from a Class 9 world, Vorin protested. This is only Class 6, it's like a vacation for them. Then you should form a strong team, Velrax replied coldly. Dismissed. Report to the simulation deck in 1 hour. The humans gathered in their preparation area. Other cadets around them were checking complex equipment, programming support drones, and distributing supplies among their team members. Should we join another team? Taeyang asked. Most groups have 6 members. Nari shook her head. They don't want us. I heard 3 different teams say they'd rather fail than work with Deathworlders. Jiho wasn't surprised. Then we worked together. Just the 3 of us. Against teams twice our size with better equipment? Taeyang raised an eyebrow. We don't need better equipment, Nari said simply. We're from Earth. They entered the simulation with minimal gear. 1 knife each. Basic water containers, a simple emergency beacon. Other teams had hover platforms, atmosphere analyzers, terrain scanners, and medical drones. The simulation activated, and suddenly they stood in a jungle. The air was hot and humid. Gravity registered at 1.2 standard, making other cadets immediately activate their gravity compensators. Jiho didn't bother. The gravity felt only slightly heavier than Earth normal. Uncomfortable maybe, but not dangerous. Temperature is 38 degrees, Taeyang said, checking his basic readout. Other teams will need cooling suits. Nari was already examining the plant life. This one's edible. So is that one. The red flowers are toxic, but only if you eat them. How do you know? A voice called out. Hana emerged from the tree line, her team following behind. You've never seen these plants before. Pattern recognition, Nari explained. These leaves have a structure similar to plants on Earth. The color patterns indicate safety. Hana's team moved past them, their drones scanning everything. Good luck, she called back. You'll need it without proper equipment. The first night was when things got interesting. A storm rolled in, the kind that would terrify most species. Lightning split the sky. Thunder shook the ground. Rain fell in sheets. The humans found a rocky overhang and settled in, making a small fire. Should we activate the emergency beacon? Taeyang joked. This weather is clearly too extreme. Nari laughed. This is nothing. Remember that typhoon in Busan last year? Now that was a storm, Jiho agreed. Meanwhile, other teams huddled in their emergency shelters, their equipment protecting them from the elements. The storm registered as a Class 7 hazard on their sensors. The humans sat comfortably, drying their clothes by the fire. On the second day, they encountered the simulation's predators. Large cat-like creatures with venomous spines and 6 legs. The other team's drones had warned them hours in advance, giving them time to avoid or prepare defensive positions. The humans walked right into an ambush. 3 of the creatures surrounded them, hissing and displaying their spines. Each one was twice the size of an earth lion. Nari moved first. She didn't panic, didn't freeze. She grabbed a rock and threw it hard at the lead creature's face. The beast recoiled, surprised by the aggressive response. Jiho and Taeyang spread out, making themselves look bigger, shouting in deep voices. The predator's instincts kicked in. These prey were fighting back. That meant risk. Risk meant possible injury. The creatures retreated into the jungle. That was stupid, Taeyang said, his heart racing. We should have run. Running triggers chase instincts, Nari replied. Better to face them down. Besides, they're just animals. They think like Earth predators. What they didn't know was that every team's performance was being monitored. In the observation room, Commander Velrax and other instructors watched with growing amazement. The humans just scared off 3 apex predators. One instructor said, without weapons, without support. Look at their stress indicators, another added. Elevated heart rates, but nothing extreme. They're treating this like a mild inconvenience. Velrak said nothing, but his eyes were fixed on the display. By the third day, the humans had covered twice as much ground as any other team. They had mapped resources, identified safe zones, and even helped another team whose equipment had failed. The simulation threw everything at them. Toxic gas zones that required the humans to simply hold their breath and run through, cliffs that they climbed without equipment, while other teams used hover assists, water sources that needed to be purified, which Nari accomplished by boiling and basic filtration. They're using techniques that are thousands of years old, an instructor observed. No technology, just knowledge and skill. At the 18-hour mark, the humans reached the extraction point. They had been given 72 hours. They finished in less than a day. Commander Velrax personally met them at the simulation exit. "Explain," he demanded. Jiho was confused. "Explain what, sir?" "How you completed a 3-day exercise in 18 hours. "We just walked," Taeyang said. "It wasn't that far." "You walked," Velrax repeated slowly. "Through Class 6 hazards. Without support equipment. Without stress," Nari shrugged. "Sir, with respect, this was easier than summer camp back home." The medical team descended on them immediately, scanning for injuries, stress damage, toxic exposure. Medical Officer Suman, a human doctor who had recently been assigned to the academy, reviewed the results. "Their vitals are perfect," Suman reported. "Slightly elevated compared to baseline, but nothing concerning. Similar to what we'd see after a moderate hike." "A moderate hike," Velrak said quietly. They treated a survival simulation like a moderate hike. Other teams began emerging over the next 2 days. Exhausted, equipment damaged. Several cadets needed medical treatment for stress and minor injuries. Voron's team took the full 72 hours and barely made it. When the results were posted, the human team had set a new academy record. Not just for completion time, but for efficiency, resource management, and problem solving. Hana found Jiho in the cafeteria that evening. "I need to understand," she said, sitting across from him. "My team had every advantage. Better equipment, more members, experience, but you made it look easy." "It was easy," Jiho said honestly. "Hana, that simulation was designed around what the Coalition considers dangerous. But compared to Earth?" He shook his head. "That was a gentle day." "The gravity alone should have exhausted you," Hana insisted. "We train in 1.0 gravity every day of our lives," Jiho explained. 1.2 barely makes a difference. The predators? Earth has predators that hunt in packs, that use tools that can kill us in seconds. Those simulation creatures were just animals. Predictable. The toxic zones? Jiho smiled sadly. Earth's atmosphere is toxic to most species. We evolved breathing it. Our lungs, our blood, our entire body is designed to handle hostile chemistry. Hana was silent for a long moment. "I'm starting to understand why the Council fears you." "We're not trying to be scary," Jiho said. "We're just trying to survive. That's what Deathworlders do." News of the simulation results spread through the academy. Human cadets were no longer just curiosities. They were something else. Something that made other species nervous. In his quarters that night, Jiho received a message from Earth. His younger sister had sent a video. She stood on a beach, waves crashing behind her, smiling at the camera. "I heard you broke some records," she said. "Mom and Dad are proud. Everyone here is proud. Show them what Earth taught us, brother. Show them that survivors can be heroes too." Jiho watched the video 3 times. The waves in the background were taller than most buildings on Paradise Worlds. The wind was strong enough to be classified as a hazard. The sun was bright enough to damage unprotected alien eyes. And his sister stood there smiling like it was the most natural thing in the world. Because for humans, it was.